So the English settlers in Virginia um, were Anglican churchmen, were primarily Anglican church followers who were monotheistic and believed very much that there was only one correct religion and one correct God. Um, so this led to a lot of disputes with the Powhatans. The Powhatans um, were not a monotheistic faith. They very much believed in multiple deities, although they did have one deity that they sacrificed stuff to, and they tried to please and believed had direct influence on day-to-day activities, similar to the way the English believed that God had a direct influence on day-to-day activities, and they worked to often please that deity in the way that the English worked to please theirs. The difference, however, most Powhatans were not motivated by an afterlife in the way the English were. The English very much believed that there was a good and a bad afterlife, and that the way one lived their life, they would reach that good or that bad afterlife. So they lived their life in order to reach a certain afterlife. The Powhatans, on the other hand, believed more in a reap what you sow type of thing in an immediate sense in their own lives, and that good practices and pleasing that deity would lead to better lives for them immediately in their lives on Earth. They didn't believe that they had an afterlife. The only people that had an afterlife in their religion were the chiefs and the priests. Those were the only people that had an afterlife, unlike the English, where everybody has an afterlife and you're either hell or heaven. So the religious differences between the two do lead to a lot of conflict. And as they argue over these religious differences, the real reason there's a big pushback from the Powhatans is because they fear change culturally. They see the English's religion as a direct influence on their culture, the way they treat women, the way they treat children, their hierarchy and class system, the way they organize themselves, all of that cultural stuff. They're very resistant to that, especially chiefs and priests who believe that a conversion to English culture would be very harmful to them, because they would no longer have their status or their place in society that they once held, because in that English system there's no use for them, because it's a monotheistic faith. There's no an outside priest in that kind of a community is pointless. Is even worse than pointless. They're a threat to that monotheistic faith. While the Powhatans were very tolerant because of their polytheism and their individualistic ideas about religion, they weren't as scared of religious conversion as they were of cultural changes. And we'll see that religious conversion, as the author states, can't happen until there is cultural conversion. So the author talks about how culturally, as the Indians start to lose their land, they have to take on an English economic life. So he says that by the 1680s, they're relying on iron tools and firearms that they get from the English. By the 1750s, they're in all English clothing. But even though they're relying more heavily on English culture, there's still a heavy resistance to religious change, to complete religious change. And in fact, the most people on the reservation, as the article says, reservation people did not even begin to join any Christian congregations until the 1780s. So it took a very long time for the Powhatans to even come close to actual religious conversions. And there had to be massive cultural change before they would accept that. And like they stopped practicing their traditional religion in the 1720s. So it's clear that until they were really like very much engaged in an English cultural and set of ideas, Christianity was not going to be accepted in their communities.